Hello, and welcome to CEO Authors, the show where leaders share their stories, strategies, and ideas that drive success. I'm your host, Carl Taft, and today I'm excited to welcome. Hello, and welcome to CE Authors, the show where leaders share their stories, strategies, and ideas that drive success. I am Carl Taft, and today we're diving into the science behind why people buy and what truly shapes the customer experience. To help us unpack that, I'm joined by Paco Underhill, the legendary behavioral researcher and best-selling author of Why We Buy and How We Eat. Paco has spent decades studying how people move through spaces, what captures their attention, and what truly drives purchasing behavior. His work has transformed the ways companies design spaces, understand shoppers, and even rethink how we experience food and retail environments. Paco, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carl.
Yes. So I'm fascinated. There's a lot of content out there from you, and I've kind of binged a little bit of it. But seems to me that your work has always been about paying attention, right? Watching people the way they are, not the way they wish they were. And in the age of like dashboards, AI, KPIs, do you think observation is becoming a rarer or more fleeting leadership skill?
Our visual language is evolving faster than our spoken or written word.
See. So, if you're a manager or a leader, how do you deal with that? Like, what are some of the steps you could do to mitigate that or address that in real time? I've heard you talk about, we're behind what society is doing, right, or what the consumer is doing. So what are your thoughts there?
Carl, one of the things I believe in is that the closer we bring decision makers to the problem, the easier it is to generate consensus and get a solution. I call it the difference between thinking sitting down and thinking standing up.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. The whole idea of management by walking around, so to speak, right? Standing up versus sitting
Well, it's
down.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 getting closer to the problem is part of what it is generating consensus to what the solution is.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. So, I'm fascinated. I'm just kind of want to hop into it a little bit. You recently had a post, if you will, um, that said, I distilled this like for a long period of time, let's call it decades. Retail has depended on customers kind of self-selecting, right? Knowing where they belonged. And this is, I think, on your LinkedIn post here a couple days ago. And now that money doesn't look the same and those visual cues have maybe changed or collapsed, like how do retailers like rethink who they're really designing spaces for, who really their customers are?
Well, Carl, part of what we're looking at is the difference between what are the biological constants. 90% of us are right-handed. Our eyes age in the same way. But there are six things that are changing. One is our relationship between the physical and cyber world. Second is the issue of gender. Third is the issue of time. Fourth is the issue uh, of generation. We're also dealing with what is local and what is global, meaning the way someone shops in in Phuket as opposed to the way someone shops in Manila versus Dubai versus
Wherever. Yeah.
yes.
Right. So, you're telling me that the key for that is to just be present, observant, open, and kind of really
Well,
understand and,
it's
and, and
it's
observe your
it's
customer?
it is recognizing what are the constant issues of change.
Very good. Yeah, I like that. Well said. It's not just necessarily in the brick and mortar, but in their house, the the challenges that they're dealing with, right?
Yes.
How we eat talks about, food as a service, which I've never heard it really said in those terms, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Like
Yes.
we're buying for convenience, or we're buying for basically our lifestyle, whatever that
Yes.
might be. Um, I want
Why is the milk the farthest thing from the front door in most supermarkets?
to draw because most people need it, so you got to pull them through the
Yes.
store. Yep, 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 yep. I like what you said too about counterclockwise, pushing with the left hand, grabbing with the right hand, and as you go through, it makes perfect sense if you just stop
Yes.
and think through that. Yeah. Um, hmm. Okay. Okay. Great. Think here. So you've applied this lens, right, to almost you name it, cities, stores, banks, hospitals, most recently food, right? What did studying how we eat reveal about human behavior that may have surprised you? Was there anything? And if so, can you share that with the audience?
Well, part of what I have historically is that I can walk into almost any store and make some very basic changes that have an immediate impact on sales.
Yeah,
And part of what I'm looking at is just the you know left, right.
yeah,
How high is the sign? I'm just you know very basic issues. I call it the uh, the issues of being in place.
yeah, true. Is it that simple though? I once heard somebody say to you, I think it was in an interview. I can't remember which one it was. It was like asking you something about retail is like asking Steve Jobs to help you with a simple computer question.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, right? I mean, sometimes things are easy to understand, but very complicated to execute,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
And I think it's so holistic, right? It's yes, the brick and mortar, but I think there's more to it than that. It could even be like what hours you're open. I mean, it could be the
It's
wigs.
it's it's understanding who's in the store on
Yeah.
Monday morning versus Thursday night.
Or maybe they have to come after work and you got to be open from 5 to 8 to get more business just because, right? Yeah.
It's that's right.
Yeah. 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 It's great. So just kind of diving into how we eat, and I'm going to kind of hopscotch around here. Personally, I'm interested in this idea, right? Like I've seen cancer rates go up. There's a lot of maybe more talk about trust in food, but we're busier and busier, convenience, quality, familiarity, all those play into the buying decisions. Do you think or feel that, well, where do you think or feel how we eat is going in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years based on your research?
Well, I am based on the premise that the better we understand the food chain and the supply chain, the easier it is for us to make sensible and healthy choices.
Yeah, yeah. And talk a little bit about the socioeconomic kind of pressures and maybe segregation, if you will, of how we eat.
Well, when I wrote that book, I lost 30 pounds. And it was not based on just what I eat, but when I eat it. And that premise of understanding the supply chain and the food chain and how does that affect our health and well-being is is clear. I I don't eat sugar. I don't eat fast food. I have my carbs in the morning,
Yeah.
and I try over the course of a day to eat as many different colors as I can.
So in your weight loss journey of losing 30 pounds and saying what you just said, um, was exercise involved at a
Sure.
degree? And okay, okay, okay.
I I I will be 74 in 2 weeks. Okay. I try to walk
Saw that.
60 minutes a day, and I often do it with weights.
Okay.
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 Okay. So I am exercising as I'm walking. Okay. And the girls at the pool see it.
That's all that matters, Paco. That's all that matters that the girls see it.
I wish my wife would see it, but the girls at the pool do.
She does, but she just doesn't want to give you too much props. And
Okay.
happy early birthday, by the way. Yeah, I saw that. I think it's on your LinkedIn. Sorry, listeners, to give that away. Okay, great. Well, do you feel that businesses are out there designing versions of their experience, or designing their experience for a version of people that no longer exist? Is that
Well,
common?
certainly one of the things we recognize in terms of the world of retail is that the top 10 list in 1960, the top 10 list in 1970, much less 2000, are changing. And part of what we're looking at is if you don't pay attention to your customer, you're consigned to the dust heap of history.
Okay. Okay. So for all the, I don't know, data scientists out there leveraging huge data sets and AI, and trying to distill down and distill out how to be more competitive in the marketplace, right? So they're leveraging those tools versus maybe management by walking. What would you say is the balance there? Like what's the
I
what's
think
the
I think
right equation for that?
I think I I stood up in a conference in 1999 and talked about why the internet was failing. It was Silicon Alley geeks designing for Silicon Alley geeks. And I think the same thing is true with AI.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Meaning, Carl, the difference between you shopping and your wife shopping. Your wife is not only shopping for herself, she's shopping for you, she's shopping for her children, she's shopping for her parents. And that is something that AI does not pick up. And part of one of the things I feel very strongly about is if we make it female friendly, we make more money. And it's not about morality, it's uh it's about economics.
What do you mean when you say making it more female friendly? I want to make sure I understand that statement correctly. What is it? What
Well, there are a host of different issues in terms
Okay.
of women.
Okay.
Women tend to focus more on their body bubble, whereas you and I are less concerned about our body bubble. We are very comfortable looking up. Women are less comfortable looking up because it
Mm.
it ends their control over their body bubble. It's just
Hmm.
very simple.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Uh, What would you add to or say to this statement? AI is great at predicting replacement behavior, but not emotion or delight.
That's correct.
Tell me more about.
A-
Tell me in the audience more
AI
about that.
is very good at looking at what you do, but what you do and what we do are often a little different based on who it is, particularly in the world of shopping, who we're shopping for.
How much of that factor of making sure you're serving the customer that's shopping for emotion or delight versus just replacement behavior, like
Well, it's often, Carl, based on the premise that at our age, I'm 74, 80% of what I buy weekly is replacement products. But my stepdaughters in their 20s are still trying to figure out who they are. And
mm. So is that mean to say that AI is better for predicting what you're going to buy versus what your stepdaughter's going to buy?
um, it is predicting what I'm buying for myself as opposed to what I'm buying for my stepdaughter.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I see. I see. Yeah, right. Yeah, when you get out of buying for self, it's a little
Yes.
more complicated than that. Okay. So I guess that answers the question then, the 20%, what's the 20% of human behavior that technology is consistently missing? Is it that? Who you're buying for?
Yes.
Okay.
And what are the occasions? And one of the things that's very interesting about the Christmas shopping season is that lots of people are coming into your store who have no idea because they haven't been there before. They're only there on Christmas and they need some help and guidance.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder about that too, shopping. That I call it the inspirational factor, right? Like, I know what I know, and I'm in my bubble, right? My bubble of life, if you will, and I buy these products and these foods and what have you on a regular basis, and I agree that's very predictable. But when I need to buy for somebody, um, y- yeah, I guess I'm reiterating the previous questions. I need help. I need to go into something that has, it's inspirational to me. And there's things that can help, but there's also value in touching, feeling, experiencing. And I'm kind of wondering where this all goes, right? And the world of Amazon and convenience. I mean, I remember moving to Idaho about 20 years ago, and it was kind of in a small town. I was going to build a big plant. It doesn't matter, neither here nor there. But it was 3.5 hours away from what I would consider a decent metropolitan area. And I remember talking to the person that was kind of selling me on the opportunity to move here and start this. I said, "Well, where do you shop?" He says, "Oh, don't worry about it. There's Amazon for that." And that's 20 years ago, and that's where it's headed. But I think at some point, I just hope or feel, or I don't know, that pendulum will either hit a ceiling or a floor of some sort. Do you have any
Well,
thoughts to that?
part of what we know is that there are many cyber merchants that are moving into physical spaces, meaning
Yes.
that if you can try it, feel it, then you can fulfill it online. I worked on Brazilian shopping malls that go into an airport. And the idea is not that I buy something and walk on the plane with it, but I experience it, I love it, and it's fulfilled online.
Got it. And you said it's at the airport, correct?
Well, in Brazil, it was at the airport.
So that's kind of fascinating to me because that typically means there's also people that just have time to kill. So they can have time to kill, shop it. It makes perfect sense because you don't want to add more to your carry-on load that you have to take on the
Yes,
aluminum
correct.
tube, right? Like that's genius. I love that. Do you have any more stories like that? I That's a great example as to,
Well,
how you can navigate some of
I have numerous stories like that. Just ask the question.
that. Okay. So 10 years from now, what does the retail market look like?
I think the retail market is looking at the combination of retail and cyberspace. It's looking at where time makes the most sense. It's looking at the issue of money has changed its physical complexion, and we need to respond accordingly.
Okay. Okay. So, in the United States, I don't know the exact numbers, right? 33 million small businesses out of a total of maybe 36 million total businesses, right? Small businesses typically defined as like 1 million or a year or less in sales. A lot of that, or some of that, good portion of that is retail, right? So, like for the small town retailer or the destination spot retailer, or somebody that's not a big box and has the team and the capacity, the balance sheet to necessarily compete at let's say a Walmart Target level. How do they stay in business? How do they stay relevant? How do they keep on surviving? Or is there any
I
you know
think
I
part of it is getting local.
Okay. Tell me more about that because I think that's a common theme in the food market and the
Yes,
food space too, right?
it's a common issue. The way someone shops in El Paso and the way someone shops in Duluth Minnesota, much less Idaho, are different.
Yeah.
And responding to those regional, local issues is part of what local merchants do. I also am conscious that the idea of organic and the idea of local are separating issues now, meaning that the large companies that bought the 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 uh, the markets
Hmm.
that are organic, but still the local merchant can't go through the process of being certified as organic, but they are local. And I try to have as much as I can in terms of what I eat is based on local.
So I'm diving into that a little bit more, um, because I feel you, and I have family that feels the same way.
Are
Is that
you
all?
are
Go ahead.
you are you Filipino?
No, so I'm real quick. I'm from Hawaii. I'm half Okinawan and I'm half Caucasian. Basically Vietnam baby, so to speak. Right? Dad was in the Navy. Met my mother.
Well,
S-
I grew
But
up in I grew up in Southeast Asia.
okay,
My first language is Bahasa Indonesia, and part of what I've been doing for all of my life is observing and looking at the difference between what I know and what the locals know.
I found that fascinating about your background. I always try to wonder like how you got there. And like I think your father was in the middle. Basically, your father's job made you travel a lot, and so there was a lot of observation. That's at least how I took to read what I read about you. Is that fairly accurate?
My my father was a diplomat.
That's right. That's right. So going from place to place, making sure you don't stick your head out and get it chopped off, so to speak, culturally, and just sit back and observe norms before taking steps was
Well,
how I
Carl,
deemed it.
I grew up with a terrible stutter,
Okay.
and it meant that I often relied on my eyes as a way of understanding, and I turned that coping mechanism into a profession.
It's a superpower, and there's a lot of retailers that are better off because of it. So yeah, it cannot be bad, Paco. Um, Gosh, I lost my train of thought. Um, I was thinking about so organic versus local. It's almost trust versus not trust, right? So it's almost like if retailers, whether it's food or shoppers, if those business owners can put out a product that consumers can trust, that's the key.
And also part of that trust is knowing who grew it, who processed it.
Right, right. Yeah, there's that satire show Portlandia, right, where they go to have a meal and they know the name of the cow that they're about to eat, right? There's this whole idea of like we understand through the whole value chain of what you're about to put in your mouth and where it's from, right? And yeah, it's satirical, but there's truth to that, right? Like
Yes,
we can
it's
all resonate.
it's truth.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. So as a small retailer, you're building that sense of trust. I guess that's where modern day commerce tools, if you will, help you scale, right? Because if you can do both, if you can have a small footprint, have an air of trust, but actually get out in the marketplace and sell to a broader audience, or if you will, or a broader customer base, that's the magic and maybe the holy grail for keeping in business. What do you have to say
Well,
about
one
that?
one of the things that I often will coach small businesses is how come there isn't a sign at the door about all of the languages spoken inside this store?
I
So
plead
habla
it.
español, 조금 한국말 없습니다. Um, fala portugués. Those are all things that actually help build local loyalty.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Hmm. It's definitely something to think about. Um, you've said that we need to stop designing for efficiency and start designing for empathy. What does empathy look like when it's translated into real world design?
It's, based on, very simple premises. For example, the average time in a dressing room is up by almost 20% because people are using Snapchat and FaceTime to be able to ask their mother or their daughter or their friends, how do I look in this? Which means that the efficacy of a dressing room is changed drastically over the past 20 years. I like the fact that my Macy's client has now light switches in the dressing room: daylight, office light, night light. So I get to look at what I'm trying on based on those different premises. I also think that a parking lot for two-legged pets outside the dressing room. Do you know what a two-legged pet is, Carl?
Me.
It's called a husband or a boyfriend.
Right.
You park him, she spends more time and she spends more money.
Yeah, that's genius. And I love the I didn't realize that you were a consultant for a big gas station here that's in Texas and other places, and it was all about clean bathrooms. And
Well, part of what I am looking at is, if you think of the Fortune 100 list, I have worked for more than a third.
why? Tell me why.
Well, because they were looking to generate more income, and knocking on Paco or in Virucel's door was a way of being able
Yeah,
to generate that.
yeah. And was the common theme or denominator between a lot of those clients? And I realize there's outliers, and it's not the case across the board. But was the outlier or the common theme rather empathy, just understanding your customer?
Empathy, understanding your customer. Yes,
Yeah, I thought you would say that. I was hoping you were going to say that because I think that'll resonate with a lot of our listeners. It certainly resonates with me, right? And because
good for you.
everybody's just trying to make a buck or view somebody as a dollar, and not I shouldn't say everybody, but it's common. And when people can take a step back and say, "How do I make your experience better?" There's magic in that. But I think the challenge for that is that I see so many times is it's really hard to equate that instantly, right? Like, oh, if we spend X, we're going to get Y, and it's going to go to the P&L or the EBITDA number of our business to this percentage and in this time frame, right? But there's so much more to that in terms of customer loyalty, employee satisfaction and retention, and on and on and on and on. And I wish AI would come up with that, right? Say, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, we're looking at this kind of translation. And maybe you know that. I certainly don't know that exists, but I feel like there would be more adoption and more. It would just be more commonplace if that were the case.
Carl, collecting data in 2025 is really easy, and figuring out what you do with it is still a complex issue. And part of what AI is doing is they can collect infinite amounts of data, but how do I apply it?
Yeah. So, if you're that guy for the AI gurus out there in the audience, how do you apply it? Or what is there a
Well, I
plot
one of the things that was very foundational in my life is having been a refugee from academia, where the scale of data was important, versus going into commercial research, and the scale of data was certainly important, but the applicability of it was really critical. And I can still walk into virtually any store and make some very modest changes that have an immediate impact on sales. And that's, in our world, that world, that truism got spread really quickly.
Love it.
Oh, you hire Paco and his firm, they can make an immediate difference.
Love it. Love it. So everyone listen, you hear that? Immediate difference. It's not, it's not conjecture. It's not wax on, wax off, speaking in
Well,
shades of gray.
it is recognizing what can I do today? What
Yeah.
can I do tomorrow?
Yep.
What can I do next week? What should I think about doing next month? And what should I be thinking about doing next year?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Well, good stuff. Well, let's see. So I guess my last few questions here. So after a lifetime of watching people, right? How they shop, eat, and move through the world, what's the simplest truth you've learned about human behavior?
Pay attention.
Love it. Love it. So where can listeners go to learn more about your work, your books, and how they can stay or get connected with you?
Well, they can always go to pacounderhill.com. They can go read my books. They are simple and they will make you smile and laugh. I'm a firm believer in edutainment, meaning that if I can make you smile, I can also make you think.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Paco, truly appreciate your time and perspective. And to our audience, thanks for joining us on CEO's Authors Podcast. Stay tuned for more conversations with the thinkers and leaders shaping how we work, lead, and live.
Thank you. Bake a cake. I'll meet you at the lake.
Don't be late.
Don't be late. Sounds good.
Yeah. Paco, really appreciate it. That was great.